Good morning to you. My name is Jonathan. Welcome to Jonathan Explores. For those of you who are new to the channel, we have converted our Suzuki Eco into a camper van and we plan to travel all over India. So subscribe to our channel and join us on our adventures. I usually don't review vehicles on this channel, but this is an exception as this motorcycle started it all for me. It started the craze to travel and explore, which is why I'll be covering this motorcycle. This motorcycle has been with me for 9 years and 4 months. And this bike has been ridden for more than 50,000 kilometers, mostly on highway. In this video, I will be doing an in-depth review of this motorcycle and I will be sharing with you my experiences and also the problems that I have faced while owning and riding it. I will also be answering questions like, is it a reliable motorcycle? How much mileage do I get? Should you be buying a CBR 250R in 2025? And the reasoning for all the various modifications that I have done on this motorcycle. So let's get into it. Now let's talk about the suspension of this motorcycle. I have no complaints about the suspension. The suspension gives you a lot of confidence. The rear suspension has adjustable preload. So right now it's on the softest setting because I prefer the soft suspension over stiff suspension. I'm not a very sporty rider anymore. I used to be when I was younger, but now I ride more sensibly. I ride a little bit more cautiously. Now let's move on to the dashboard. The dashboard is very simple. There's an analog tachometer and a digital speedometer, one trip meter and an odometer. That's it. It doesn't have a side stand indicator or anything. It has a indicator display, high beam, engine check light, and it also shows the time. Now let's talk about the lights of this motorcycle. This motorcycle has all halogen bulbs everywhere. It doesn't have any LED or anything. Like I said, this is a 2015 model. So back then, I don't think many bikes had LEDs on them. Talking about the headlight throw is quite good, I would say, for halogen. It's decent. I think it's a little above decent. It's quite bright, in fact. I've not faced any problems with any of the lights. I had the tail light changed once in these 9 years. And that's about it. Next point is the engine. As you guys know, this is a 250cc motorcycle. It's an entry-level motorcycle. It's a very good beginner bike and it's very forgiving, this engine. If you shift wrong or if you make any mistake, if you give too much of throttle, it's not going to misbehave. This bike will not misbehave because it's a very low-powered bike compared to other 600cc and 1000cc motorcycle. So this is a good bike to learn riding on, I would say that. So if you make any mistake in shifting, if you downshift very abruptly, if you skip a couple of gears and all that, this bike is quite forgiving. The wheels don't lock up that easily since it's only 250cc. I think this is a very good entry-level motorcycle. The engine of this motorcycle is a high-revving engine and all the gears are quite far apart. The gears are not close by. So the shifts happen at a little higher RPM. And this bike is more comfortable on a higher RPM. On low RPM, it struggles a bit. I'll say below 2500 RPM, the engine seems like it's struggling. The sound that it produces, it seems like it's struggling. It's much happier above 3000 RPM. So this bike redlines at 10,500 RPM. And the sweet spot is like 5,000-6,000 RPM. You get a nice boost of power over there. This bike likes to be in the higher RPM range. And what that means is that when you ride in the city, you'll find yourself very often shifting gears. You'll keep on shifting gears. If the traffic is start-stop, you'll keep on shifting second, third to second to first. When you go slow, you can't start from second gear. Like if you go too slow, you can't start from second gear. You have to shift to one. There is no getting out of that. You just have to shift down to a lower gear if you want to ride slowly on this motorcycle. But you get used to it after a while. I'm used to it. I'm used to riding this motorcycle in the city as well. Since this bike is a high revving motorcycle, it's designed to be ridden at higher RPMs. It is very comfortable riding at higher RPM. There is less vibration. Even if you're riding at 120, 130 kilometers per hour on this motorcycle, there is little to none vibrations felt. It's that comfortable riding fast with this motorcycle. So going slow, city traffic, not that great, but on the highway, cruising 80, 90, 100, 120 also, this bike is as smooth as butter. Now speaking about the mileage of this motorcycle, On an average, you'll be getting 30 kilometers per liter. That is, if you're driving like 80 to 100, you'll get 30 kilometers per liter. If you drive conservatively, like 60 or 70, you'll get 35 kilometers per liter. And if you accelerate slowly, of course, if you use minimum throttle and you like go into fuel saving mode, manual fuel saving mode with your hand, I mean less throttle, you'll get around 35 kilometers per liter mileage. I've got around 37. That is driving very conservatively. But if you push this bike really hard, like if you're traveling on an empty highway at 120 kilometers per hour continuously, you'll get 25 kilometers per liter. 25 kilometers per liter is the lowest mileage I've ever got. Like even start-stop traffic in city also, you'll get 25 kilometers per liter. So mileage is quite good, I'll say, for a 250cc. The fact that I was getting 37 on the highway, I think it's quite good. Now let's talk about ground clearance of this motorcycle. It's got decent ground clearance. I don't know the exact number, but it will be mentioned here on the screen in millimeters. The fairing is a plastic fairing over here. So you have to be a little careful while riding this motorcycle. By any stretch of your imagination, this is not an off-road motorcycle. This is purely a street motorcycle. It's for the street, although I've taken it off-road a bit, but I've been very careful. Usually when I take it off-road, I ask my pillion to get off the motorcycle and walk for the really rough parts. And then I ask the pillion to sit back again. So this is not at all an off-road motorcycle, and you have to be careful so that this plastic doesn't break. If this hits somewhere, this plastic is going to crack. Now let's talk about the brakes of this motorcycle. This is the non-ABS version of this motorcycle, and the reason why I went for that is because of the lower price. Do I regret buying a motorcycle without ABS? Not actually, although I would have ridden this bike more in the rains if I had ABS. Because I don't have ABS, I don't take it much out in the rains. I avoid riding in the monsoons. Even if I go and ride on monsoons, I ride slower than usual to be on the safe side since I don't have ABS. I rely on my hand ABS, progressive braking, you know. Some people, even if they've practiced progressive braking in an emergency, they just squeeze the brakes. So if you're not used to progressive braking, then this motorcycle is not for you. If you have ridden a bike which had ABS and then you're going to a bike which doesn't have ABS, that's a very bad idea because you're not used to doing progressive braking. And that usually doesn't turn out very well. So I don't advise switching from ABS motorcycle to a non-ABS, but other way around is fine. If you're a non-ABS rider and you switch to an ABS motorcycle, that's absolutely fine. Now to go back and answer some questions that I had mentioned earlier. Who is this motorcycle for? Well, this motorcycle is for beginners, obviously. Those who want to ride more powerful motorcycles. Either they don't have the budget to buy a more powerful motorcycle, or riding a more powerful motorcycle is too intimidating for them. This falls in that category where it's perfect for new riders. It's comfortable in the city, it's comfortable on the highway. Not to ride very far distances, but like 100, 200, 300 kilometers is fine on this motorcycle. Anything above 1000, if you're doing long distance rides only, then the ergonomics is not perfect for that. It's not a cruiser by any stretch of the imagination. It's still a sports motorcycle. Now to answer the next question, should you buy a second-hand CBR 250R in India? Why not? Absolutely, you can go ahead and buy one. But will you find a good condition CBR 250R? That is very rare. It's very rare to find this bike in good condition because since it's got a lot of fairings and you know, a lot of plastic parts, most of the time you'll find CBR 250Rs which are quite badly scratched or damaged. And also the mirrors are quite wide, so you'll find a lot of CBRs with either broken mirrors or aftermarket mirrors and stuff like that. So to find one in stock condition is quite tough. The reason for all the CBRs in the market that are damaged is because of the riding conditions in India, and people don't take care of their vehicles very well over here. And the traffic, people don't care in traffic, especially Bombay traffic. I've seen like riders hitting each other, and like both the people who have hit each other don't really care. They not stopping to fight and all that. Just one sorry, and then they continue, like, you know, they don't care about scratches and stuff like that. Most of the time they don't even say sorry. They don't care about scratches, which is very weird to me. Guys, one more thing I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about the engine is that the clutch plate is original. I have not changed the clutch plate yet. And I think the clutch plate should last around 80 or 90,000 kilometers because it has no signs of wear and tear till now. I hardly use the clutch when I ride, only on first gear and to shift gears. Other than that, I don't use the clutch. So which is why I think it's lasted this long. This is also one modification which I forgot to mention earlier. I have added these saddle stays over here. They are by HDT Customs. It's a saddle stay as well as it's a mounting point for this top box. So very, very useful saddle stays because my saddlebags sit perfectly over here on either side. So that's also one thing I forgot to mention. If you want to see me on a lakeside adventure on this very motorcycle, you can check out this video over here. Thank you so much for watching and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.